Hi, I'm McGrath from Financial Edge Group. We're a retirement specialist based on the Central Coast. Today I want to talk to you about your superannuation and importantly the beneficiaries that are attached to your superannuation. So most people might not know this, but they should potentially, that your super by default isn't covered as part of your will. It's covered by a nomination you should have with your super fund. Not automatically as it goes part of your will. It does in some cases, but by default it's important to look at what this nomination is with your super fund. Now there's a few different types of nominations you can make, and the super statement should show you what nomination you've got, who it is and what type. The most common ones are a binding nomination and a non-binding nomination. As the name ideally suggests, a binding nomination is binding. The super fund needs to follow those instructions and execute that if something happens. A non-binding is more of a, here's what I'd like to happen, but the super fund kind of has that ultimate decision. So ideally where we can, it's important to put in place binding nominations. It's a bit more paperwork. We often need witnesses and stuff like that, but it makes sure that it's done as best as possible and there's no mistakes made along the way. In terms of who should we put in our nomination, obviously that's depending upon everyone's kind of personal situation, what that looks like. Typically it might be your spouse, it could be your children, or someone who's financially dependent upon you. With the super fund rules and stuff like that, it's often can't be just your best friend or a charity or something like that. They're the kind of main requirements. Spouse, children, or a financial dependent, i.e. someone living with you or someone you're supporting in that case. It's important to check that nomination you've got, and also over time that might change if circumstances change. We're no longer with that partner. Children's situation might change, that we may not want them to get super because they're getting something else instead. So it's important to check that even your best nomination 5 years ago might be different to what it could be today. The other part is you actually can instruct that your super goes into your will, but you've got to put that in as a special nomination. You tick the box, legal personal representative, saying, please send it to my will and follow the instructions of my will if that's what you want to do, and sometimes that is the best case. If we don't have a nomination in place at all, what happens? Basically, the super fund trustees make the decision of where's the best place for that money to go. They've got guidelines. They write to relevant people to say, would you like some? Are you entitled to some? And then basically they make a decision that may or may not be in what your best interests are or what you'd intended for your money to do. So for us, it's really important when we work with clients, we make sure they're up to date. We review them regularly to make sure they're still valid. So I'd encourage you, if you've got a super fund, which most people do, check your nomination, make sure it matches to what you want it to be, and importantly, update it along the way as well. Hopefully that's been helpful.